Welcome back with another one of those new old records videos where I talk about records I bought, and I call this series new old records because usually it's records that are like 20, 30, 40, 50 years old that are new additions to my record collection. But this time there's also one really new record that I'm going to show you, and it's the first I'll show you. It's Who is the Sky by David Byrne. I'm in a bit of a Talking Heads phase at the moment, and this is really, you know, even if I would not have been in a Talking Heads phase, this still would have blown me away. But this adds even to my excitement for this album. It's fantastic. I think it's probably the best album of the year by anyone. I think this and the Divine Comedy album, Rainy Sunday Afternoon, are my two favorites so far of 2025. Maybe this is also his best solo album ever. I mean, he has several really great solo albums. Yesterday a friend played me his 2001 album that I wasn't familiar with before. It's also brilliant. But this is really, I think this is on the level, this is almost on the level of my 2 or 3 favorite Talking Heads albums. Such a, you know, the cover even tells you a lot about what it sounds like. It's such a colorful album, such also an optimistic album. You know, it's really cool these days to get optimistic pop music that isn't like music or something, but that is really good quality music. And this is really a great album to enjoy and to have fun with. And it's also an album you can listen to repeated times. It has so many exciting little features. Great album. Who is the Sky by David Byrne. Then yesterday I went to one of my favorite record shops in Vienna, and I finally got my favorite Scott Walker album on vinyl. I had it on CD before, Scott 2. This is, in my opinion, well, I wouldn't go as far to say this is his best album, who am I to say that, but this is the album that's most to my taste of all the Scott Walker albums. It's maybe one of his least experimental albums he ever did, but you know, wonderful songs, wonderful songwriting. Jackie, Black Sheep Boy, lots of great songs on that album. Then a recommendation in a way by Murdoch from Murdoch's Music Minute. He made a extensive review of the Shakti album by John McLaughlin, or the project was called Shakti. It was, you know, a band, but John McLaughlin was like the face of the band, the star of the band, but 4 virtuoso musicians. And since I'm always trying to tap my feet a bit into the fusion genre, I'm not really yet old enough, I think, for pure jazz. Sometimes, you know, every now and then I try a real jazz record, you know, John Coltrane or whatever, you know, all those Miles Davis, those people, and I can't really get into it. But I like Weather Report, I like the Mahavishnu Orchestra, also starring John McLaughlin. So I checked out this album. I'm also very interested in Eastern philosophy and also Indian world music, kind of music, and this is John McLaughlin doing that. I bought it in this original album classics series format, which is this very, you know, budget, very cheap way to get real great albums. So it's 5 John McLaughlin albums. I haven't listened yet to the other 4, but you know, I agree with Murdoch. That's really very cool, very virtuoso, but in a cool way, in a tasteful way. Album, very explosive playing by all the players, but also especially by John McLaughlin. So yeah, maybe 3, 4, 5 more fusion albums, and then I'm maybe then I'm ready for real jazz. Who knows? Then something that's not jazz, but also which is like mostly instrumental music. I haven't yet listened to it. It arrived yesterday. It's probably the biggest, I guess so, the biggest classic in Brian Eno's solo catalog, Another Green World. I expect it to be instrumental or mostly instrumental, as usual with Brian Eno. You know, like with fusion and jazz, this, you know, ambient music is also a genre where I'm very slowly adapting to. It's not really where I'm really at home, musically speaking. But, you know, I'm a big Roxy Music fan, and I love many of the albums Brian Eno produced outside of his own solo career or Roxy Music. So I'm a fan in a way of Brian Eno. So maybe it's finally time to really check out his real albums, his solo albums, and I thought this would be maybe a good starting point since it's such a classic. You know, people talk about this as a classic. Then some other albums I bought maybe more quickly because they're not that interesting, I think, at least to me. The Beatles in Italy, that's a Beatles compilation from the 60s that was still missing in my collection. You know, nothing new for me on there. Those are just, you know, some songs from the 1963-64 era. Mostly the tracks like from the Long Tall Sally EP. You know, I have all those songs in various formats, but this is a very, you know, strange compilation. It looks like a bootleg, but it was an official compilation by EMI Italia, by the Italian wing of EMI, and for the Italian market. And you know, I know all those songs, but was still missing in my Beatles collection, and I'm kind of a completist. Then I'm in a Umberto Tozzi phase at the moment, so I'm trying to get some of his studio albums, or maybe the more interesting of his studio albums. This was one of those. It's from 1987. Maybe that's not going to be to my taste as much because I'm already familiar with the single hits from that album through a best of compilation I have of Umberto Tozzi. I think I'm more a fan of his late 70s, early 80s work, but you know, by now I already have most of his early 80s, late 70s work, so I'm going to check this out as well. And the last one of his classic late 70s, early 80s albums that was still missing in my collection is this album, whatever it's called. It includes the big hit Ti Amo next to Gloria, probably his biggest hit ever. So Umberto Tozzi. Then a few, again, I'm a bit of completist of this group, and some of the last missing official releases by the Rolling Stones in my collection, the Rolling Stones Now, and the live album. I'm really looking forward to this one, Got Live If You Want It. No, it doesn't really have a great reputation. It's not seen as their best or one of their best live albums, but I'm a fan of the Brian Jones era. I'm a fan of the more ramshackle, you know, way of their live performances at that time. So I don't expect it to be as, you know, as big, as epic as Mick Taylor, Rolling Stones era live material. So I think I know what I'm getting here. It's really the Rolling Stones as a beat group, like the Beatles live in a way, screaming fans and so on. And I'm looking forward to it. You know, the song selection is very interesting. You know, lots of classics from the mid '60s Brian Jones era. They were first and foremost a singles act. You know, songs like Under My Thumb, Get Off of My Cloud, and so on. So I'm looking forward to this. Rolling Stones Now, less so because I'm familiar with most or all of those songs on this album. Then I told you I'm a big Roxy Music fan. So next to Brian Eno, another member of the group whose solo catalog I'm, you know, beginning to check out more and more is Phil Manzanera. You know, Brian Ferry. I think I already have most of the Brian Ferry albums, but Phil Manzanera, who did some albums that are, you know, highly regarded by many people. You know, I'm finally getting into him. This is an album from I think 1980, Southern Cross. I don't know if it's regarded one of his better albums or maybe even one of his best albums. You know, I'm just trying to get in somehow on Phil Manzanera here. He's one of my most beloved guitar players, one of my favorite guitarists in rock history. So I think I'm going to like it. And the last one is an album that I have on CD for like 20-25 years now. One of my favorite 60s psychedelia bands, also early 70s, was Mutantes from Brazil. This is one of my favorite. Is it from the 60s or 70s? It must be like 69, 1970. It's from 1970. If it would be a 60s album, it would be one of my favorite 60s albums. But let's put it that way, this is one of my favorite albums from the year 1970, I can say that. I have it on CD, like I said. Fantastic band, Os Mutantes, Tropicalia sound. And this album, A Divina Commedia, is it's like it's a dark psychedelic album, which is strange since they are from Brazil and also have those samba, bossa nova kind of influences in their rhythm as well, which makes you think of a very sunny approach. But this is more like the Velvet Underground doing Sgt. Pepper with a Brazilian tinge. It's very dark and gothic and spooky sounding. Maybe it's even also a predecessor to what Susie and the Banshees would do in their early post-punk goth phase. But if Susie and the Banshees would have been a 60s flower power psychedelic group, then they would sound like this. And it's a masterpiece, and I'm really looking forward to listen to it on white vinyl, as it says on this reissue. So thank you very much for watching. Until next time, goodbye.